Okay. Hi Israel, how you doing today?
I'm good.
You doing good? Perfect. Okay. So last week we talked about lines, correct? And we also talked about what a line segment was. Then we went over parallel lines, and then we also talked about what are parallel lines and what are not. And then we also talked about perpendicular lines. Remember all that? Do you remember the terminology of what a line is, a line segment, parallel lines, and perpendicular lines?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So this week we're gonna be talking about transverse lines. Remember I told you last week we're gonna be talking about transverse lines this week, correct? So we went over this picture last time we met. I told you we have line L and line M, and then we have a transverse line. Remember what a transverse line is?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's a line that creates angles.
It's a line that creates angles?
Yeah.
Perfect. It's also a line that goes diagonally through line L and through line M. So it has an intersection point at line L and another intersection point on line M, correct?
Mhm.
So this line's line L and line M, do you remember what type of lines are those?
Straight.
Straight lines, they are straight lines. But what is the relationship between line L and line M?
And they never touch together.
They never touch together. And what is that called?
Parallel lines.
Yes, correct. This line L and line M are parallel lines. Do you know what is the measurement of a straight angle in degrees?
180 degrees.
Yeah, correct. So line L will be a straight angle that it's a measurement of 180 degrees. How about for line M? What is the measurement for this angle?
180 degrees.
180 degrees. Okay. And then what is a transverse line?
A line, like, it's gonna be like parallel, but like just like a line
Okay.
on both of them, and it makes like angles.
Okay, so it is a transverse lines that goes through line L and line M at an angle that will create angles, correct? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about complementary angles and supplementary angles. Do you know what complementary angles are?
No.
No? Okay, so complementary angles, this is how you spell it. Complementary angles. So complementary angles. And then complementary angles are two angles that add up to be 90 degrees. All right? So whenever you have a right angle, this is a right angle, correct? If you split this angle into two by creating an array, array will be a line that goes from the center angle into a straight angle like that. So this is going to be a ray. A ray will create two angles within the 90 degree angle. So let's say it goes down the middle of the right angle, and now this angle is 45 degree angle. And then what will be the next angle?
45.
45 degrees. Why would that be 45 degrees?
Because they both add up to 90.
Yes, correct. So you also get it from 90 degrees minus 45 degrees is equal to
45.
45 degrees, correct? So both of these angles, angle A and angle B, add up to be how many degrees?
90.
90 degrees, correct. So 90 degrees, and then both of these angles will be called
Complementary angle.
complementary angles, correct? All right, so let's do another example, right? So I'm gonna have you do this example by yourself. So again, we have a right angle, right? And then a right angle, you already know that a right angle is equal to how many degrees?
90 degrees.
90 degrees. So this angle right here is going to be 90 degrees. So let's say they split this angle into two, and then they say, all right, we're going to have an angle that's 30 degrees. So this is angle A. Now I want you to find the measurement of angle B. Do you know how to do that?
No.
So what is the angle measurement of angle B?
60 degrees.
60 degrees. How did you get that answer?
By subtracting 90 and 30 degrees.
Yeah, that's correct, because you already know that this angle is a total of 90 degrees, and then they give you angle A, which is 30 degrees. So you take away from the 90 degrees, take away 30, and it leaves you with angle B being 60 degrees. So angle A, which is 30 degrees, plus angle B, which is 60 degrees, is equal to
90 degrees.
90 degrees. And what are these two angles called?
Complementary angles.
Complementary angles, because complementary angles are angles that are two angles that add up to be 90 degrees. Okay, so now let's go back into our straight angle, right? So a straight angle will be a straight line, right? And then the center will be the angle, right? So the angle is, what is the angle measurement of a straight line?
180 degrees.
180 degrees, correct. Now, if you create a perpendicular line with this straight line, what would the perpendicular line be? Draw me a perpendicular line for this straight angle.
Like that.
Okay, so what makes this a perpendicular line?
Like it makes like a cross, and like the dot is always like in the middle.
Okay, perfect. But what else do you know about this lines that will make this a perpendicular line?
It has right angles.
It has a right angle, correct? So can you draw those right angles for me? Perfect. So how many right angles is it creating?
4.
4. Yeah, this is 90 degrees, this angle is 90 degrees, this other angle is 90 degrees, and then now this angle is also 90 degrees. So angle A, let's label this angles, right? This angle is going to be angle A, angle B, angle C, and angle D. Whenever you add up this angle A, which is 90 degrees, and then you add up this other angle B, which is 90 degrees, how much are you getting?
180.
180, correct. So these two angles, whenever you add two angles together that give you 180 degrees, those are going to be called supplementary angles. So supplementary angles is how you spell it. Supplementary angles. Do you see a similarity between both of this? Between complementary angles and supplementary angles?
Like they both add up.
Yeah, so you're adding two angles together, right? On this complementary angles, you're adding two angles that are equaling how many degrees for the complementary ones?
90 degrees.
90 degrees. For this other example, you're adding up two angles that are gonna have to equal how much?
180.
180, and they're called supplementary angles. So that's the relationship between both of this, that you're adding two angles to equal a certain number of degrees. So with complementary angles, you're adding two angles together that will equal 90 degrees. For supplementary angles, you're adding two angles that will equal 180 degrees. Do you have any questions?
No.
You see how these two angles add up to be 180 degrees?
Yeah.
Yep, perfect. So let's do an example, right? We're gonna be working with complementary, no, let's do a supplementary angle example, okay? Supplementary angles. So supplementary angles. So with supplementary angles, we're gonna have a straight line. A straight line is an angle of what measurement?
180 degrees.
180 degrees. Perfect. And then you're gonna have your center point, and then we're gonna create two angles. So I'm gonna give you an angle, and this angle is gonna be 30 degrees. And I'm gonna label this angle angle B. I need you to find for me angle B. Do you know how you would find angle B?
Subtract 180 with 30.
Yeah, that is correct. So you're gonna have 180 minus 30. Do you know what the measurement of 180 minus 30 will be?
150.
150, because whenever you subtract 30 degrees from 180, you get 150 degrees. So angle B will be equal to 150 degrees. You see that?
Yeah.
Perfect. So I'm gonna give you an example to do by yourself. So let's give you this example. In this example, you're gonna have to find angle B. Okay, so you find angle B from subtracting 180. You're gonna subtract 57 degrees. So why did you do that?
Because I know it equals, this whole line equals 180 degrees.
Correct. All right. So whenever you find that, you know that you have angle A. So now you're trying to find angle B to equal 180 degrees. Correct. So then you subtract 57 from 180, and then you get 123 degrees. That's correct. All right. And then both of these angles add up to be
180 degrees.
180 degrees. And what type of angles are this?
Straight, no, and that too.
Yeah, you have an obtuse angle and then an acute angle.
Mhm.
So this angles add up to be
Supplementary angles.
supplementary angles, which are two angles that add up to be 180 degrees. That is correct. So we're done for today, Israel. So today we talked about parallel lines. What are parallel lines?
Two lines that never meet together.
Yep, perfect, correct. And then we also talked about perpendicular lines. Do you know what perpendicular lines are?
It's like cross and then like there's like a dot in the middle and then they make like 4 right angles.
Yes. So that a perpendicular line always creates a 90-degree angle. And then we also talk about complementary angles. Do you know what complementary angles are?
They're like two angles that make 90 degrees.
Yeah, perfect. Two angles that add up to be 90 degrees. For example, angle 45 plus angle 45 will be 90 degrees. So it's two acute angles that add up to be 90 degrees. And then what are supplementary angles?
Two 90 degrees, two right angles adding up to 180 degrees.
Yeah, that is an example. Can you also have an acute angle and an obtuse angle that add up to be 180 degrees?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. That is correct. So, do you have any questions for me today?
No.
No? All right, Israel. Well, thank you very much for letting me teach you about complementary and supplementary angles. Next week, we're going to be going over the congruent angles and angles that a transverse line will create. Remember what a transverse line is?
Like two like parallel angles and then like there's like a line that creates angles.
Yeah, so a transverse line is a diagonal line that will go through two parallel lines. Correct? All right, Israel. Well, thank you very much for letting me guide you over transverse lines and supplementary and complementary angles. I'll see you next week, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.